Hi folks, it's Shane here again at Isle of Wight Bushcraft. Well, as you can see, I'm in a tarp tent with my walking stick as a centre pole for this setup. This is often used as well with the Hex Peak or the Lux Mini Peak as well, those Hex tents. One problem I find, particularly in a smaller setup, it's a pain. It's in the way. You're crawling around, you're trying to get to your pack. If you knock it, then okay, it's easy enough to put back up. But if you knock it, particularly in the middle of the night, your tent's down, wouldn't it be better to have this same setup but without the pole? Look at that. I've got the tent tarp set up, but without the pole, much more room to manoeuvre. Well, how do I achieve this? Stay tuned and find out. Before I demonstrate this setup for you, I'm just going to make my way into a local woodland nearby so that I can source some materials. I need to source and harvest a stoutish hazel sucker, with which I can carry with me until I find a suitable spot in which I can set up this configuration. It's a real joy to walk through this woodland, and even in the depths of winter, there is beauty all around. And I cannot resist the urge to just pause for a few moments and take a closer look. But then it's back to the matter in hand. So for our main suspension pole, in this instance I'm using hazel, as you can see. If you're on open land and there's not a lot of trees around, then obviously when you do pass woodland, I would make use of that and cut down a sucker and carry it with you. It's no great hardship really. Since there's lots of hazel in this little woodland, lots of suckers, it doesn't hurt the tree to cut off or lop off a few suckers. Actually does the tree good. That's how they used to coppice in any case. And but you can use anything. I like to use hazel because it's quite springy and the suckers grow quite tall. I would say we probably need the pole, suspension pole, to be around about 12 feet long. So I'm going to take one of these and then we'll carry on. And a nice clean cut. I'm just going to take the suspension pole now and just clean off these little branches or little shoots. Probably overstating it to call them branches. There we are. I'm just going to lop this off at around about 13 feet.
So after a short walk, I came across this little spot which I decided was just right to demonstrate this configuration.
Now we are going to need to make a pilot hole. The reason for that is we'll knock our pilot hole into the ground, which is bigger than the suspension pole, and we just knock it in, pull it back out again, and then we can insert our suspension pole. This is beneficial particularly if the ground's a little bit hard. If you try to get the pole in, you might not be able to get it in too far, and then when you arch it over, it could just pull out of the ground. So we're going to put a decent sized pilot hole into the ground, I would say probably about 10 inches, and that will act as a stay, if you like, to keep that suspension pole in place. So I'm just going to cut this now and we'll make the hole. So I'm just going to put a point on this now with the axe. So there we are, that's what we're looking to make, our pilot hole maker. Let's clean that. Clean that little nodule off. Don't want that. That make it hard work. Yeah, so that's our pilot hole stick, and we're making a little hole over there, and then we can insert our suspension pole. What you do is, as you're banging it in, give it a little wiggle, little bang, because you don't want too tight a fit, otherwise you'll struggle to get it out. There we are. That's about a foot down, and we've got our pilot hole. We can insert our suspension pole now. So what we do now is we attach a piece of cordage to the end of our suspension pole, and in this case I'm using a short piece of orange twine. The reason being just so that you can see it actually in the demo. And once you've inserted your suspension pole, you may find that when you arch it over, it's maybe a bit too springy, maybe a bit too much give. That's simple, you just saw a little bit off, but it's best to cut it long to begin with, like I say, 13 feet, because you can always take off, but as you know, you can never add on, so that's the reason why I cut them long to begin with. So all we need to do now is attach this to the end of our suspension pole, so we'll do that now. Anyhow, not this will do. There we go, so that's attached. So what we do now is we take our tarp. In this case I'm using the DD 3x3 multicam, and then we attach the centre loop of our ridge loops to the other end of the cordage which we've attached to our suspension pole. So we'll do that now. Now you could attach your middle loop of the tarp along the ridge loops. You could attach the centre one directly to the top of the suspension pole. The reason I'm putting cordage on there is it allows you to adjust, depending on the strength of the suspension pole. If you attach straight to the end of the pole, then your options are limited. So that's why I put the cordage on. In this case I only need about 4 inches worth, but of course if it's a stronger pole you might need a little bit more. So now what we're going to do is going to peg the tarp out. So to peg out, what we do is we start off pegging out with our front 2 corners of the tarp. So as you can see, we've pegged out our front 2 corners of our tarp. Now what we need to do, I've explained this before in another video, is we go 1 loop in from the corner, okay, and hold that position, and then bring our corner loop in to that position there, and then peg that out. And the same the other side. We've pegged out our corner loop of the tarp, so we take the next loop in like so, hold the position, and then we put our corner loop peg in that position. So now what we do is we peg out our 2 rear corner loops to make our tent. there we are, we're almost there. We just need to adjust our front right corner peg just to tighten up that side, and then we're good to go. Now, as you can see, I've got the tarp tent configured with the door open. So if you're wondering how I've achieved this, I do have another video which is on my channel, which is called Hammock and Tarp to Tent and Nest Tutorial. That explains more about this configuration. As for the moment, as you can see, we have our tarp tent set up, but without any central pole inside. No walking pole or stick needed, because we've got our suspension pole keeping the peak of our tent erected. So now some of you might be thinking, but I don't want to carry a suspension pole for mile after mile when I'm hiking. But I cut that pole probably about a third of a mile away, and you just put your walking poles in your walking pole holder on your backpack or rucksack, and it's no problem to carry that. In actual fact, you can use it, doubles as your walking stick as well. So, and then once you arrive to a piece of a site that you're going to put your tarp tent up, easy peasy. As I say, this suspension pole system, not only use it with a tarp tent setup, but also with a hex peak or a Lux mini peak as well. Be ideal for that as well. And as I say, it gives you much more room inside to move about. You haven't got that central pole which you've always got to be aware of. So hope you found that useful, and please like and subscribe underneath if you do, or any comments and feedback is welcome. And also another thing as well I think we need to remember now is just to tick the bell, otherwise you won't get the notifications through. I think YouTube are trying to suggest more corporate videos, and so unless you press that bell you won't get a notification of what's coming up next on the channel. So like I say, I hope you've enjoyed it, hope you found it useful, and join me next time. Bye for now.